There's a reason wisdom and gratitude walk hand in hand. Wisdom doesn't simply tell us what to think, it teaches us how to see. And when we learn to see life through the lens of gratitude, everything changes. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes sacred, and even pain becomes purposeful. We live in a world that teaches us to chase more, to have more, do more, and be more. But wisdom whispers a different truth. Be thankful for what you already have, and you will discover what truly matters. A friend, if you could pause for just a moment today, if you could quiet the noise around you, you would hear God reminding you that gratitude isn't optional. It's the gateway to joy, peace, and spiritual strength. So let's lean in together, because before this message is over, you'll discover how wisdom can make your heart thankful, even in the hardest places of life. You see, the wise don't thank God because life is perfect. They thank Him because He is present. Gratitude doesn't come from what's in your hand, it comes from who holds your hand. When we look at our circumstances through the eyes of faith, we begin to see that every breath, every sunrise, every challenge is a gift with divine purpose. Gratitude turns what we have into enough. It changes complaining into worship and turns anxiety into assurance. Wisdom teaches us that gratitude must be practiced, not postponed. Some people say, "I'll be thankful when things get better." But the truth is, things get better when we become thankful. Gratitude is like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger our faith becomes. Every morning, before you even touch your phone, whisper this: "Lord, thank you for this day." That single sentence has the power to shape your entire outlook. Now, let's be honest, gratitude is easy when life is easy. But true wisdom is proven in the storm. Every trial has two paths. One leads to bitterness, the other to betterment. The difference is gratitude. When you thank God in the storm, not just after it, you begin to understand that your pain has meaning. God never wastes your tears. He uses them to water the seeds of purpose. So many people are restless today because they're counting problems instead of blessings. But wisdom reveals the secret peace flows from a grateful heart. The moment you start thanking God for what you have, fear loses its grip and joy finds a home in your heart. Gratitude doesn't ignore reality, it transforms it. It takes the same facts and tells a different story, one of hope instead of despair. And here's the most powerful truth: thankfulness outlives us. When your children see you give thanks in hardship, when your friends hear gratitude instead of complaint, when your life radiates contentment, they're witnessing wisdom in action. A grateful person changes the atmosphere around them. They make homes warmer, friendships stronger, and faith deeper. Gratitude doesn't just bless your present, it shapes your legacy. So today, ask yourself, what if I stopped chasing more and started thanking God for what already is? Wisdom says gratitude isn't about what's next, it's about now. It's about finding beauty in the broken, purpose in the pain, and peace in the process. My friend, when you walk with gratitude, you walk with wisdom, and that's something truly worth being thankful for. When we talk about gratitude, I want you to understand something right away. It doesn't start with what you have. Gratitude starts with how you see. It begins with perspective. The world tells us to focus on what's missing, to chase after what we don't yet possess, and to measure our worth by the things we own or the titles we hold. But wisdom whispers a different truth to the heart that is content with what it has, no matter how little, is the heart that is truly rich. Think about it for a moment. How many of us wake up in the morning and immediately see what's wrong before we see what's right? We scroll through our phones, comparing ourselves to others, and our gratitude disappears before we even have time to feel it. Yet the wise person pauses, lifts their eyes, and says, "Lord, I may not have everything I want, but I have everything I need." That simple shift in perspective transforms an ordinary day into a sacred moment. Gratitude doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. It doesn't depend on flawless health, financial security, or smooth relationships. The person who practices true gratitude sees God's hand in the smallest details: a meal on the table, a breath in their lungs, the laughter of a child, The warmth of a friend. These are not ordinary moments. They are gifts wrapped in the ordinary. And when we recognize them, our hearts begin to overflow with thanksgiving. There's a power in seeing life this way. It changes how we face difficulties. Challenges no longer feel like punishment. They become opportunities to witness God's faithfulness. Loss doesn't steal our joy, it teaches us dependence. And even in seasons of uncertainty, we can stand firm because gratitude reminds us that God's presence is our greatest possession. The wise understand that thankfulness is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about acknowledging that even in imperfection, there is provision. It's about looking at life through spiritual eyes, seeing beyond the chaos, and discovering blessings hidden in plain sight. When you adopt this perspective, your whole world shifts. Your conversations, your attitudes, your relationships, they all begin to reflect a heart that has learned the profound wisdom of simply being thankful for what is, instead of lamenting what isn't. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it is a choice, a deliberate act of the will. So often we wait for circumstances to feel right, for joy to arrive, for problems to vanish before we allow ourselves to be thankful. But wisdom teaches us that thankfulness is a spiritual discipline. It is something we cultivate, something we practice, even when life feels heavy, even when the storms rage around us. Think about it for a moment. How many times have we said, I'll be thankful when? I'll be thankful when I get that promotion, when my health improves, when my relationships fall into place. But the truth is, gratitude is not something that waits for the world to cooperate. It is something that transforms the way we see the world. When you choose to be thankful in the midst of struggle, you are training your heart to see God's hand, even when everything else seems uncertain. There is a discipline in saying thank you when your heart doesn't naturally feel it. There is a strength in praising God when your circumstances scream for complaint. That is where wisdom steps in. It reminds us that every day is an opportunity to lift our eyes, to declare our dependence on God, to recognize His faithfulness in ways that our eyes alone might miss. When we practice gratitude daily, it becomes like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it grows. The more we focus on God's provision instead of our problems, the more our hearts are shaped into vessels of joy and peace. Consider this. Gratitude transforms perspective. It reshapes how we pray, how we respond to challenges, how we interact with others. The person who practices thankfulness doesn't wait for happiness. They cultivate contentment. They learn that joy is not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of a grateful heart that trusts in God's sovereignty. Every act of thanksgiving, no matter how small, is a spiritual workout, training us to lean not on our understanding, but on His unchanging wisdom. And the most beautiful part is this: gratitude isn't just about acknowledging the blessings we can see. It's about trusting God for the blessings we cannot see, believing that even in what feels empty or broken, His purpose is at work. The discipline of thankfulness transforms ordinary life into extraordinary moments of spiritual growth and unshakable peace. And as we cultivate this daily practice of gratitude, something remarkable begins to happen. Our perspective on pain changes. Suddenly, struggles that once felt like walls closing and become teachers, shaping us into the people God intends us to be. The wise understand that pain is not a punishment, nor is it a random misfortune. It is a tool, a refining fire that strengthens character, deepens faith, and draws us closer to God. Think about the moments in your own life when trials came unexpectedly. Perhaps it was a loss, a disappointment, a health challenge, or a relationship that fell apart. At first, it felt unbearable. But over time, looking back, you could see how God used that very situation to teach, to mold, and to provide a perspective you never could have gained any other way. That is the wisdom of gratitude in action. It doesn't ignore the pain, but it refuses to let the pain have the final word. The heart that has learned to give thanks even in the storm discovers a secret many people never know. Trials are not meant to destroy us. They are meant to direct us. They expose the areas where we rely too much on ourselves and remind us to rely fully on God. They prune away what is unnecessary, leaving us with roots that grow deeper and stronger. And in those difficult seasons, gratitude acts like a lifeline, keeping us connected to hope, reminding us that even when we cannot see the full picture, God sees it all. It's in the hard moments that faith and wisdom intertwine. Gratitude becomes a shield, a lens through which we interpret our suffering not as meaningless, but as meaningful. Every tear we shed, every night we spend wrestling with fear or uncertainty is an opportunity for God to cultivate perseverance, patience, and spiritual maturity in us. And here's the beautiful part. When we allow gratitude to guide our response to pain, we not only survive difficulties, we are transformed by them. The lessons we learn in hardship, when paired with thankfulness, shape our character and influence our future. We begin to understand that every challenge carries a gift, every setback holds a lesson, and every loss contains the potential for God's extraordinary purpose. And as we allow gratitude to shape the way we face challenges, something even more profound begins to unfold: peace. Not just fleeting relief, but a deep, abiding peace that defies circumstances. You see, the restless heart is often the ungrateful heart, always counting what is missing, always chasing what is beyond reach. But the wise heart, trained in gratitude, discovers a secret the world cannot give: contentment that surpasses understanding. Peace doesn't come from the absence of problems. It comes from the presence of a grateful heart. When we fix our eyes on what God has already done, when we pause to acknowledge His blessings in the midst of chaos, worry begins to lose its grip. Anxiety fades, and fear no longer dictates our steps. This is why gratitude is not just a response to life. It is a weapon in the spiritual battles we face daily. It protects our minds, guards our hearts, and keeps our souls anchored even when everything around us seems uncertain. Consider the ordinary moments of life: a quiet morning, the sound of a loved one's voice, a place to rest at the end of the day. These are not small things when viewed through the lens of gratitude. They are reminders that God is present, that He is faithful, that He is working even when we cannot see the full picture. And when we practice daily thankfulness, our perspective shifts from scarcity to abundance, from fear to trust, from doubt to confidence. Peace becomes our natural response, not because life is perfect, but because our hearts have learned to focus on God's goodness rather than our problems. Gratitude also changes how we respond to the world around us. Relationships improve, tension dissolves, and conflict loses its power when we approach life with a thankful spirit. We begin to speak words that build rather than tear down, to forgive more easily, and to extend grace more freely. This peace is contagious. It spreads from our hearts to our homes, our communities, and even to strangers we encounter. The wise know that peace and gratitude are inseparable. One cannot flourish without the other. When we embrace thankfulness as a daily discipline, it unlocks a serenity that the world cannot take away, a calm that persists even in the storm. And in that calm, we find clarity, strength, and the courage to face whatever comes next with unwavering faith. And as this peace takes root in our hearts, we begin to see the far-reaching impact of gratitude, not just on our own lives, but on the lives of everyone around us. The grateful heart doesn't keep blessings to itself. It multiplies them. It radiates hope, encouragement, and joy, touching family, friends, and even strangers in ways we may never fully realize. Wisdom teaches us that thankfulness is not merely a private exercise. It is a powerful force that shapes communities and influences generations. Think about the people in your life who consistently express gratitude. Their presence brings comfort. Their words inspire courage. Their example teaches younger hearts to look beyond entitlement and appreciate the beauty of each day. That is the power of a grateful heart. It leaves a legacy far beyond the moments we see. The seeds we plant in gratitude today may blossom years from now in ways we cannot predict, shaping the character and faith of those who follow in our footsteps. Gratitude also transforms leadership. Whether in a home, a workplace, or a church, the one who leads with a thankful spirit fosters loyalty, trust, and respect. People naturally gravitate toward those who acknowledge God's goodness, who recognize the contributions of others and who celebrate small victories as much as the great ones. This is the wisdom of a thankful heart. It builds not only character, but also community, creating a ripple effect that reaches far beyond a single life. And consider how gratitude interacts with adversity. A heart that has learned to give thanks in every circumstance becomes a beacon of stability and hope. Trials may come, storms may rage, but the influence of that gratitude touches everyone nearby. Others watch, they learn, and they are inspired to shift their own perspective. What starts as a personal discipline becomes a collective transformation, a legacy of faith and resilience that extends beyond the immediate, reaching into the future. Ultimately, the wise person understands that life is measured not only by achievements or possessions, but by the spirit in which we live and the impact we leave behind. Gratitude turns ordinary actions into extraordinary testimony. It ensures that our presence leaves the world better than we found it, that our influence inspires, and that our memory encourages others to walk in faith and thanksgiving. In the tapestry of life, a grateful heart weaves threads that endure, connecting one generation to the next in the unbroken story of God's faithfulness.